Hello and welcome back to the GPC Power Rankings. This is the Grand Conference Power Rankings for week 3, and so we've got 2 weeks worth of games to cover, both week 2 and week 3, because of course week 2 was done by the Petite Conference, which if you haven't watched, go watch it, because the other analysts are very good. Sadly, you're stuck with me and also my co-analyst Jack. Jack, say hello.
Hello.
Wonderful. So, might as well get right into the rankings. And I'm going to start with my number 10 and Jack's number 8, the Richmond Rayquazas. Jack, what do you have to say about Dom?
Well, he did. He was okay for these 2 weeks. I don't think he did too badly to put him at number 10 because he did get a win over Dom, even though it was he kind of got a bit lucky at certain points in the game, but I think he did play decently well to put him a bit higher than number 10. So
Yeah, I think what was interesting about his game against Dom was I very much expected it. These were the two most offensive teams in the league. I expected, it just to be really fast trading. But Dom managed to kind of slow it down, make sure that he kind of could defensively deal with a lot of Phillips' threats, whilst also making sure he can get into a winning position. And in his week 3 game against Ethan, I think he obviously got a bit lucky. Obviously with the Stone Edge miss from Doug Trio, because his team did struggle with Doug Trio, and so the Stone Edge miss was very lucky for him because he got rid of that big threat immediately.
mm-hmm.
Another key turn I saw was him trying to set up swords dances with Keldeo when it appeared he didn't have poison jab, and there was still a Finny around.
Yeah.
That being said, one thing he did do very well against Ethan was the Miltank versus Donphan matchup, because he managed to basically ensure that he got out of that matchup without Ethan having rocks by rapid spinning on the last turn to ensure that he died to Miltank's Rocky helmet. So basically he rapid spin, get rid of the rocks, and then die. If Ethan had gone for rocks, Ethan didn't go for rocks that turn. But basically he managed to ensure that they got out of that matchup without rocks on his field, and that's very, very good for him, especially when he had a Mega Beedrill on his side.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else about Richmond Rayquazas, or can we move on?
Now we can move on, I guess, yeah.
Cool, so let's move on to my number 9 and Jack's number 10, the Persimmons. I still don't know how to pronounce that. And Gareth lost 2 games. His 2 games this week. He's the only team that's 0-3, I believe. And he just kind of got outplayed. Week 2, he got outplayed and he got outprepped by Zazo. The biggest kind of thing which I think made winning incredibly difficult was losing Sandslash. Because losing Sandslash meant that he basically still had rocks and sticky webs up on his side of the field, which made sure that Landorus Therian, when it came in, just could completely destroy his team. Do you have anything else to say about week 2 or week 3 for the Persimmons?
Well, we had some interesting stuff. You did get Well, he did play pretty decently in the week 3, but unfortunately he got swept by the circuitry there. So he got 2 pretty big losses these 2 weeks. So there's not really a higher place I could put him. That's the reason kind of why I put him number 10, because he lost by quite a big margin week 2, and then week 3 he lost 3-0 and got swept by circuitry. So
Yeah, Gareth definitely lost week 3 at team matchup because just when you look at the two teams and you think, what does Gareth have for a circuitry? And he just didn't.
I think he played pretty well in that game, though, to be fair.
Yeah, I think the only questionable moment was leaving Toxicroak in setting up with Toxicroak against New.
Yeah,
I think that was questionable, but then it kind of was valid to guess that Mew didn't have Psychic, but in the end it did.
Yeah, it's kind of risky, but
yeah. So moving on to my number 8 and your number 9, the Exeter Chief Alexavires and Melon. Now, Melon got a win and a loss. A win on week 2 against trying to find there we go. Win on week 2 against Turbo. And the thing is with this game is I actually had a practice game with Melon for week 2. I fought him and I basically ended up in the same situation as Turbo, where Turbo had such a good matchup, and then there's Salamence. Because Turbo, everything matches up really well against Melon on Turbo's team, but then nothing beats Salamence on Turbo's team as well. So all Melon really needs to do is what he did was basically stack his whole team to weaken Turbo enough to just win with Salamence at that point.
Yeah, you got that crit on Kieran, kind of won in the game there. So,
yeah, definitely. And his week 3, basically, Melon's team is very bulky, and he fought Fallop, and Fallop's team's very offensively got a lot of offensive, wall breakers, and he basically just got worn down. Like Mega Heracross, Mega Heracross did a lot of damage to his team. Because any Mega Heracross does a lot of damage to any bulky team. And Thunderous did some things and all that. And then he almost pulled off the Salamence comeback. But then, of course, prepared for that, had the Shocker Metagross, managed to prevent that, and it was a fairly convincing, it was a fairly solid loss.
Yeah, I would say so. I think Thunderous Eye actually had a pretty good matchup there in certain times. I actually had a practice game with him this week, and I swept him with Thunderous Eye. So I think Thunderous Eye could have done a lot more. So I think he got, he did lose pretty, convincingly. So it's kind of hard to say where. It's kind of, I don't know. He got kind of unlucky this game, in my opinion, because of Mega Heracross kind of just went for his team pretty well as well.
Yeah, he definitely had the poorer matchup at that point. And so, moving on to my number 7 and your number 6, we have the VCU Reshiram's and Pierre. Now, Pierre, why don't you start with Pierre, Jack?
Yeah, both of his opponents for this week are from what I've seen, are pretty good in the league. in Asta and Josh. Both of them are very good battlers. So, he played very well in like both games. But he did lose both of his games. So I mean, they can't really put him in a higher position than this. So, I think he played well in both games, but he kind of got out outplayed and maybe outprepped as well in his games. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I felt week 2 was definitely a case of just kind of he had nothing for what the Zygarde set which Asta brought, and so he just kind of lost from there. However, that being said, him playing around him playing around the weakness policy in Polion with Meloetta, I really appreciated. Um, just the weakened Meloetta still 1v1ing an Empoleon. I'm very, very happy with that. He tried to status spread, which is what he did week 1 against Asta, and it kind of worked in the early game, and just the problem was when Zygarde came in, he just couldn't deal with it at all.
Yeah, the Zygarde there kind of just won a game. I wish Empoleon could have done more there to help to win, but oh well, what can you do?
Yeah, we'll get on to that when we talk about Asta. But week 3, I think I think he had a lot. He had 2 big things which Josh just straight up did not have a switch into. Being, I think, Araquanid and Bulu. Like Josh struggled to switch into those things, and he played both. I think Bulu he played better, but Araquanid he was far too reckless in the early game and basically just let it go down far too early, and so kind of ended up blowing that match up because he just didn't play with his threats as well as he potentially could have, especially Araquanid.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he played pretty well around him, in my opinion, anyway. But the DD Flygon with Z Z Fire kind of hurt his team quite a bit as well, weakened him down and to starting to like kind of clean up his team there, and
Yeah. And so moving on to my number 6 and your number 7, we have Ethan's Tennessee Dynamos. And these last 2 weeks have not been kind to Ethan. He has gotten unlucky in both games. Week 2, he fought Josh, and I think he lost to Hacks, like straight up. There were 2 big Hacks moments, both involving Magmortar. Part 1 was a Thunderbolt crit against his Tapu Fini, I believe, which meant he could not remove rocks, which I believe meant that something couldn't live a hit later in the game. And in addition to that, to add in, even more insult to injury, when he went into Eval to finish off the Magmortar, click knockoff, flame body. And that was his way to win, and flame body screwed him. And to be honest, I think Ethan had better prep that game. I think he prepped better. Both sides played very well. I'm not denying that, but I think Ethan did have the better prep that game. And those 2 instances of hacks just both times cost him dearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when it came to week 3, again, there was an incident with hacks where Doug Trio had a really, really good matchup against Dom. And so he has this brilliant set where he brings in Celesteela against Beedrill. Beedrill clicks U-turn, but because of the eject button on Celesteela switches out, but Beedrill doesn't. It can go into Scarf Dugtrio and trap it, which all worked out if Dugtrio could hit a Stone Edge, which apparently it can't when it matters. And
Yeah,
so
that's
Dugtrio
Stone
went
Edge.
down without doing anything, and that was a massive, massive threat to Dom's team. Just
Yeah,
gone.
yeah, that Stone Edge miss cost him. Cost him a lot in that game because that Dugtrio, that was just a very unfortunate miss.
Yeah. Anything else to add about Ethan?
Um, he played very well in both games, but as you said, he did get very unlucky. So I don't know. I think he can definitely bring it back if he doesn't have the same luck in the upcoming weeks. So,
Yeah, definitely, and especially because he made transfers after week 3. The transfer window opened up, so various teams made transfers. There's one I'm very happy with, which I'll get into later. But Ethan's transfers as well were very, very good. He now has a Zardex. He now has Zardex, Feeny, Celesteela, which is a spectacular core.
yeah.
He has Shaman in there. He's just got he has certainly made he's taken advantage of the transfers, and I think his team is better because of it. And so I look forward to seeing what he can do with those transfers.
Yeah, I think he will definitely come back from this. We'll see, depending on if he gets the luck on his side for the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, I mean every week so far he's climbed up by 1 spot in my rankings. So if this was a 13-week league, he could have got number 1. But moving on to the one we agree on finally, the only one, in fact. Actually, no, there's another one we agree on. But our number 5, Phoenix Midnights and Turbo. Jack, what do you have to say about Turbo?
Well, the first week we talked about against Melon, where he lost to Salamence and a crit on his Kiram. That was quite unfortunate. And the second week, the third week, he got them pretty. He got the sweep with Zerkatry against Gareth. So he played very well both weeks. And his prep has been pretty good for the both of the weeks there. And yeah, I think he's doing very well at the moment in the league. And if he keeps it up, he can definitely be in the top contention or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think the thing is the reason why Turbo's kind of number 5 and not any higher is that he hasn't kind of done anything wow yet. Like
Yeah,
week 2, he had a very powerful matchup, but the crit obviously was unfortunate, and he didn't have anything for Salamence after that. So yeah, he just kind of yeah. And then week 3, Zerkatry again just kind of won on team matchup. He couldn't really do anything flashy with that because, well, it got set up and then it won. Like it's solid games. It's just nothing as impressive as the other teams.
yeah, he's not doing anything wrong. So I mean,
Yeah,
well,
I can't identify anything he's kind of done massively wrong. It's just kind of also he's not as great as the top 4.
yeah, I agree with that.
And so moving on to my number 4 and your number 2, the Texas Turtwigs and Josh. Now, Josh week 2, as we brought up with Ethan, did get very lucky. And, the Magmortar, however, I'm not taking anything away from Magmortar. Magmortar is my favourite budget fire type in the format. And it kind of proved it this game. Not just by getting hacks, but also it put a lot of pressure on Ethan's team. And so that is just brilliant. One thing I'm kind of getting tired of is, can we stop saying that Faint Mega Pinsir is an original amazing set? Because, I mean, it was in like GBA Season 4, but now it's standard. Let's just accept it. It's standard. Let's stop going on about it, please.
Rufus, you're bad. You can't. I'm joking.
And then week 3, however, I think he did very well. Like, he managed to weaken Pierre's threats and Starmie. I never thought I'd be saying this. Starmie did very good against Pierre. It managed to basically be his anti-offense mon. It's something to come in, revenge kill any of Pierre's big offensive threats. I think his prediction with the Thunderbolt on Volcanion switching was very good. Basically, that ruined Volcanion that game. It was made sure it did absolutely nothing. And yeah, Josh played that game really well. Starmie was the clear MVP, and it takes a lot for me to admit that.
Stormy's great, man. I mean, he played it very well, so I definitely think he deserved it. And
yeah,
he played around Arachnid pretty. He dealt with quite a few of his the threats to his team as well very nicely.
Yeah, Bulu, Arachnids, he managed to deal with those very well, and then just kind of made sure Pierre couldn't really break through.
Mm-hmm.
And so moving on to our agreed number 3, we have the Juford Drapions and Fallop, Paul. Now, why don't you cover Paul, Jack?
Well, for was it week 2? Week 2, it was a good game. Well, he won both of his games, I believe. He won both of his games. So he's been playing very well for the past 2 weeks here. And he got his
Wait, oh my! I just realised something. I think when I was talking about Dom, I made the points which I wanted to make for Fallop. That's annoying. So basically, when I was talking about Richmond Requires, when I said they managed to slow down a fast game, no, that was Paul who managed to slow down a fast game. The Richmond Requires made some questionable plays that game, which I didn't bring up. But yeah, Fallop won in the end because he managed to slow down a fast game. There we go. That's what Fallop did. Cool. Dom didn't do that. Dom failed to e-speed the Azumarill the second time, and also clicked Encore with Whimsicott for some reason against Decidueye. Don't know why he did that. But let's talk back to talking about Fallop. Jack, back to you, because I just got to go over that for a
bit. week 3 against Melantosh is mega Heracross, as we said. They quite wear down Melon's team, and he just kind of
he basically had the wall breaking power to take down Melon. Like he managed to bust through all of Melon's bulk, with Thunderous and with Mega Heracross, and then in the end just managed to preserve Metagross in the back very well, so that when Mets came in and tried to come back, the Shucker Berry, boom, pop, kills the Metagross. Simple prep, but managed to preserve it well enough to catch the incredibly convincing win.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing with both these games. They were very, very solid wins. Like he prepped well, he played well, he preserved what he needed to preserve, and he just played incredibly well. So moving on to my number 2 and your number 4, Jack, the Montreal Habsols, and they dropped Empoleon. Yes. See, this is what happens when you drop Empoleon. You get number 2 on the power rankings.
I'm disgusted.
However, he still had 2 games to play with Empoleon, and both times it went 0-1. He made a bet, I believe, with there was someone he made a bet with, saying that Empoleon will get 3 or more kills against week 2 against Pierre. Meloetta had other ideas, and so Meloetta, and just because Pierre uses Meloetta incredibly well, and so managed to basically beat Empoleon, because Empoleon's terrible and Meloetta's very good. And I remember talking about in the post-draft power rankings how well Pierre uses Meloetta. I remember mentioning that, like, he is the guy who knows everything and can do. I think Asta now has that with Zygarde, because both week 1 and week 2, he brought incredibly interesting Zygarde sets, which were exactly what he needed to to basically just win the game. And both games, he did that incredibly well. And Jack, do you want to talk about week 3? We're against Zazo.
Sure. He had the baton pass, cosmic power, mega Lopunny into the Zygarde, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, cosmic power Lopunny is always a fun set to see brought.
The Lando kind of just dealt with that, the SD Lando, and then took out the Mega Lopunny as well because of the Yatchep Berry. So yeah, I don't really.
Yeah, I mean, the other main thing to take away from this game is Empoleon went 0-1. So, just thought I'd throw it out there. Empoleon came in and then died.
One day.
I need to get a burn on Garbodor, I guess. But and then moving on to what we agreed on for number 1, the Detroit Butterfrees and Zazo. Now, remember when I said in the post-draft power rankings that Pierre uses Meloetta very well, and how I just said that Asta's like that with Zygarde? I think Zazo's like that with Landorus, because Landorus, if we look at the MVP table, let's just go into the Grand Conference MVP table. Actually, no, that's after week 4. I can't say that. I don't know how many kills it got what its record was after week 3, but it's some kind of MVP. It's 14-1 after week 4. I don't think I'm spoiling much in saying that. You'll see how it got those bonus kills in Zazo's week 4 battle on his channel, youtube.com/IronFlashGaming, probably. Link in the description alongside all the other GPC coaches. There's a plug. Basically, both of these games can be summed up by Landorus did a thing and won.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, my only note for week 2 versus Gareth was just Land OP. And I mean, I don't remember much from that. He got webs up, and then Landorus happened.
Yeah, I remember in that game there was quite a few encores going on.
Yeah, there were encores thrown around left, right, and centre. People clearly wanted to go on for longer, but Landorus had other ideas.
There's a fire blast burn on the what was it, the Diggersby.
Yeah, that's actually one of the few moments of good luck Gareth has had ever in his league format career. So I'll give that to him. I'll let that slide for all the poor luck he's had over the past 3 seasons in the GPC. And week 3, I think he did very well against Asta. I think arguably, according to my power rankings, so I'd say that Asta and Zazo are the 2 best players in the league. And to see them fight, I think Zazo just prepped incredibly well and played incredibly well. Like he used Miss Magus to basically clear as a big threat to clear the things which stopped Lando from sweeping. I think it was a good call to attempt to hazard stack, although he didn't succeed because of this gold burn. He got a spike up, which is always good. 1 spike is better than no spikes. And then he kind of had a bit of a berry party later on. He, with Yachiberry Landorus, managed to living a ice move of some description. I don't remember what. I think it was Ice Punch from Low Punny. That's what it was. It was my Ice Punch from Mega Low Punny. Managing to live that with the Archie, taking it down, and then dying to poison, which allowed Blaziken to come in, and with the Psychic Resist Berry, the Pataya or something like that, managed to clean up Jirachi and Empoleon. So, Jax, any closing thoughts on Zazo?
Well, I mean, he's number 1. He's undefeated, and he's just like proving why he is one of the best players in this league, and by winning and being undefeated and playing very well and prepping very well as well.
Yeah, I'd say he's arguably one of the better players in the entire format. Like, I think he's definitely up there with some of the greats. Like, he's a great player. And so, yeah, those are the week 3 power rankings. So next week you will see me joined by the better analysts doing Petite week 4, and then we'll be back in 2 weeks for week 5. So that's it for us. So we will see you in 2 weeks' time.